once again. Chosen, living in purpose. I am more than excited to have our executive leadership team joining us tonight. You all know the madman himself, Brennan Francois. He is no stranger. Shalonda, you all know Shalonda, our executive assistant. She keeps us all in line. And Minister Danny Parks, who helps lead our social media and marketing, as well as our chosen tweens. Um, we wanted to discuss an announcement that we made on Saturday that we are super excited about. You probably have heard by now, but if you have not heard by now, Chosen is going to be in the movie business. We are working on a film titled Living in Purpose. I am, let me tell you something, like, I still really can't believe what's happening. Like, everything's happening so fast, but I'm excited about it. I am more excited about the lives that I think are going to change. The the subtitle of the film is "The Depth of Your Pain Isn't Worth Comparing to the Glory of Your Purpose." I'm going to repeat that. The depth of your pain isn't worth comparing to the glory of your purpose. That is what this film is about. It is about embracing pain and realizing that in the midst of pain, there is purpose. When I say the depth of your pain isn't worth comparing to the glory of your purpose, how does that resonate with you all? What does that mean to you when you hear that? Anybody?
I think it pretty much means, everything that we go through is going to work out for our good. A lot of people think that when they're in certain situations that's tragic, that there's no good that's going to come out of it. That they'll always be in it and there's no lesson that they can learn from that, or how it's going to help them help others. But I think within your post, you had a different perspective about your pain. And that's one thing that I believe we all need to remember when we're going through these tragic situations, that we have to have a different perspective on why we're going through it and the lessons that we can learn from it and how to use that to help others. So that's what I think about when you don't know the glory of the pain that's going to come from the glory of your purpose that's going to come through your pain.
That's so hard though. I mean, like, looking back on my specific story, I know we all have different stories, but the thing about pain is, it'll find you. Rich, poor, black, white, Democrat, or Republican.
Right.
I know for me, it was hard for me to trust God in the midst of that pain. Why do you think it's so hard for us to have like proper perspective in the middle of the painful situations that we go through?
When I used to go through, there were times when I go through painful situations, and I think I've talked to you about this before, and I said, this feels like distraction. This is just distraction, right? I mean, it's hard to, sometimes when you're going through something painful, like at least for me, I'm logical. I just want to have a logical explanation for why this is happening and how can we just avoid it next time. But I think what I had to understand is that I have to just embrace it, because it's not necessarily distraction. Sometimes distractions can be, pain. It could be that, but it's actually an opportunity to work through it, to endure to endure it and to really lean on God in a way that I haven't before, particularly because for me, everything is about what's logical, putting the pieces together. Well, sometimes you can't put the pieces together and you have to just rely on God to do that. And that's one thing that I've found that's helped me be able to make sense of it, is to understand it doesn't make sense all the time.
What you think, Brennan?
What I like to add is that I think religion has, in some sense, hurt our perspective when it comes to pain and pain's purpose. We often see pain as the punisher, being punished for something we've done wrong, being punished for a mistake we've made. Pain only comes because we're being punished. But in reality, God's view of pain is not necessarily for punishment alone. Pain is also the professor. And by professor, I simply mean that pain can be a teacher. It can instruct us. It can open new avenues and new vistas of faith. And when we have a different perspective of pain and not take that narrow view of it, to broaden our view and to see things from God's vantage point. If you've been in a plane and you've flown over Augusta, you see Augusta differently than you do when you're on the ground. When you're on the ground, you only see so much, but when you elevate, when you allow yourself to gain out, when you allow yourself to get closer to God, you can then see a broader perspective of pain. So pain is not just a punisher. I believe pain is more a professor.
Y'all see Brennan how he did that, man? Tried to say that and act like it wasn't.
That's good.
man. Listen, did you all hear what he just said? Pain is not the punisher. Pain is the professor.
That's a hashtag.
I know.
Pain is the professor.
That's good, bro. Pain is a teacher. But let me tell you about me, y'all. Y'all are probably a little bit more teachable than I was. But I wasn't trying to learn what pain was teaching me. I wanted to drop that class. You know what I'm saying? Like, finding out that both of my parents had AIDS at the age of 11, and that my father wasn't the man that I thought he was. Like, I think our ability to learn the lessons that pain teaches us has a lot to do with spiritual maturity, but also natural maturity. Because at the age of 11, I wasn't able to understand how pain could help me. And I agree with everything you're saying, Brennan, which is why one of the things that I try to do with the youth that I mentor is at a young age, even begin teaching them that just because you're going through pain doesn't mean God doesn't love you. It doesn't mean he's not paying attention. That pain can actually be a professor. I've never used that term, but what I use is pain can be a protector. And what I mean by protector is that pain can actually protect you from things that could hurt you more. And so, like for me, one of the things that I learned in my own story was I was so arrogant. Even as a young man, you couldn't tell me anything. Is that hard to believe? Shalonda said. But just imagine this for a second, though. Like, my dad was the highest ranking African American at a Fortune 500 company. I only can imagine, like, growing up underneath that and not having God, like who I would have been if pain hadn't come into my life. So what I'm interested in knowing from you all is, what are some things, Brendan, you set me up perfectly, some things that you have learned from pain. Like, I don't want to tell your story, so you all feel free to share whatever you want to share about your own personal lessons that you've learned from your pain, and some of the things that you've learned from your past situations. But my testimony is, I know that God allowed pain in my life, and I want to hear from some of our listeners as well. Thank you, Latanya. Thank you, Uncle Thomas, Shanice, for chiming in here. Anybody else who wants to share, please share, and we'll shout you out. I know that looking back, one of the greatest lessons that I have learned about pain was how it humbles you and makes you more dependent on God. And one of the reasons I felt led to take the opportunity to do the film is I want people to lean in to God when they're going through pain. I want people to use pain to develop their relationship with God versus allowing pain to destroy their relationship with God. And I believe that this is a lesson that we all need to learn, especially during this season of life, when we're going through a pandemic, when we're going through racial unrest, when we're going through a really tumultuous political season, when people are losing jobs left and right. We are going through pain that many of us have not experienced before. And what I'm seeing, unfortunately, from a pastoral position, is a lot of people are allowing pain to destroy their relationship with God. They're falling into, pornography. They're disconnecting from their local churches and their local pastors. They are becoming distracted with things that they were not distracted with before. And pain, they are not allowing pain to be their professor. They're actually allowing pain to destroy and distract them. And so one of the things I learned from pain, looking back, is how much it will humble you and help you in your relationship with God. I'm interested in what you all have learned from pain and some of your own personal testimonies and stories.
Well, I want to go back to what you said about pain being a protector. Like when you said that, immediately I thought about how our body is like self-preserving. So whenever there's, like you when you were younger, y'all try to play that game, who can hold their breath the longest. And I can't do that. But I realized that we can't do that because your body isn't just going to let you, die or suffocate. Like it has this mechanism in it that is self-preserving. So with pain, it does protect you because it helps you to realize, like, oh no, you remember you were hurt. So let me, like Pastor Brennan said, it's also a professor. So those two work together, the protector and the professor for pain. So when I think about that, I also think about how sometimes, even with God, like sometimes God lets us go out so far just to show us that you can actually take that leap of faith. Like, I got you, just in case something happens, I got you, and that's the same with pain. Like, we have to be able to come from under that umbrella of protection and actually take some chances. Like, yes, we've been hurt, but do we stay in that hurt position, or do we, kind of take little steps out of that umbrella of protection? Because sometimes it can be, if we're not careful, we can allow that protection to also deter us from our purpose. And so what pain can teach us, what it has taught me, is that I was weak at one point, but now I'm stronger. And then I can go a little bit further than what I did. And if I get hurt, I get hurt. I'm just going to push through that hurt again. I'm going to stay under my protection, let the lessons be learned, make sure I dwell in those lessons, and then I can go a little bit further after that. With me, I don't know, y'all probably already know I have a background in actually experiencing youth depression and youth suicide. So with that, I'm able to turn around and actually be able to see these girls and see these boys and recognize myself in them, like recognize that pain in them. Because we know, like with youth, sometimes the youth, most of the time, the youth doesn't talk about what they're going through. They'll suffer through, their depression. They'll suffer through suicidal attempts, and no one will never know. My mom says all the time, she was like, I never knew you were going through this. And so when we go through pain, that pain helps us to actually recognize that pain in others, because we know, like, I can never recognize the type of pain that you went through, Unique, or you went through, Shalonda, or Pastor Brennan, but I can recognize my pain in other people. I can recognize, that body language, or those words that we think that people don't recognize, but people who's been through the pain, we can read through the lines of what you're saying. We can read through those words and be like, you know what? That don't sound right. Come over here real quick. Let me talk to you. So that's what it's taught me as well. So.
Oh, that's good right there.
And for me,
go ahead,
I was going to
Brent.
share that what pain taught me is that, what pain has taught me is that I'm not self. Mm-hmm. And so before I elaborate on that, I want to go back to what you said, Unique, that most people in pain aren't looking for a teacher. And most people are feeling sorry for themselves. They're feeling disconnected. They begin to separate from other people and isolate. And that's really what the devil wants you to do, because you're easy to pick off when you're by yourself. And so if we separate ourselves from the body of Christ, if we separate ourselves from the people who genuinely love us, then we are destined to fall and fail. Pain will not accomplish God's purpose for us. So we're not looking for a teacher. We want relief from the pain. And that's why it's important for folk who've been through pain to help others recognize the lessons that can be drawn from their pain. I want to give you a text that helps explain this. 1 Corinthians 10, and it says, now these things happen to them as an example, and were down for our instruction, on whom the ends of the ages come. You can't find a person in the Bible who didn't go through some pain. You give me a name, I'll give you a pain. Everybody, including Jesus. Everybody had pain. And the reason that pain is revealed, the reason that pain is written about, is for an example to us. And when we begin to take note of what we're going through, and rather than asking, why is this happening to me, reframe that to ask, why is this happening for me? And when you begin to think about it in those terms, then you can begin to embrace the lessons that come. And so the reason I don't isolate when I'm going through pain is because I know the people I connect to have been through something themselves, and they can remind me that whatever I'm going through, I'm going to get to the other side of. And during the journey, if I glean lessons from them, I'll be a better person on the other side.
That's strong. What do you think, Shalonda?
Yeah, so one of the big lessons that I learned recently in my situation, I was going through a very difficult breakup. I had a marriage that was ending, and that was very hard for me. But one of the lessons that I learned through that was a verse that stood out, which was Exodus 14:14. I think so. I think it's Exodus 14:14, which is, I will fight for you. You just only need to be still. And so what I learned through that, and the reason that stood out to me, is because it's easy to stay busy for me. Oh, just got so much stuff to do. Let's stay busy and not deal with the thing that is bothering or causing us pain. There's so much that I can do to keep my mind off of it and just avoid going through whatever God needs me to go through. But I realized that if I just um, sit in this, just sit still, feel whatever the emotions are, go through whatever the process is, and really trust that God is teaching me something or has something to teach me through this, that I'll be in a much better position than I will be if I just keep running and avoiding whatever, the issues are. And I would agree with Brennan that the other piece of that is recognizing that everybody is going through something, which I think is when you're so busy, it's easy to ignore that. And so a person going through some pain and challenges, as a person going through pain and challenges, it was easier to recognize that other people might be going through things too. And so just reaching out to people, not necessarily because there was a trigger, but realizing that, in those moments where I was feeling really low, someone might reach out to me and it really would brighten my day. So it helped me realize, I just need to reach out to people more. Just say hi, just check on them, just see how they're doing. And I learned a lot from people. I learned a lot about what people were going through as they started to share with me, just because I reached out to see how they were doing.
And that's so powerful. I think what we've all said, underlining theme is pain made us better, made you more sensitive to others, Shalonda, helped Danny develop her ministry, helped Brennan recognize how many other people could care and help support him as he helps and supports so many others. I think that was one of my motivators for wanting to do the film. Like when I minister to youth, when I try to give the gospel to somebody that does not have a relationship with Christ, almost always they cannot see how God could be good in the midst of pain. They almost without fail, if a person's falling off in their relationship with God, it's because they're going through something. If a person doesn't have a relationship with God and they don't want one, it's because they've gone through something. And so what I felt like the Lord was asking me to do with my story is, Unique, you have got to be the light. Not that I'm special or not that, God hadn't done this with millions of other people, but for some reason, God is pushing me out my comfort zone and trying to get me to share my story with more people. It's like I think it's Matthew 5 where the Bible says nobody takes a lamp and puts it under a bowl, but they put it on a stand and it gives light to everyone in the house. And so what I feel like God is asking me to do personally and chosen to do corporately is to take our lights and stop hiding what God has done for us. Like I put in a post earlier that I used to tell people that I lost my parents to cancer instead of AIDS, because cancer would give you, sympathy. AIDS would get you judgment. But what I was doing in that moment was I was actually putting, a cover over my life. Like I was actually hiding what God had done. That's why I think, we work so well together and we love and support each other so well, is because each and every one of us brags on our brokenness. Like each and every one of us is willing to say, this is who I was. These are the mistakes that I made. And here's how God's favor, grace, and mercy has been made manifested in my life. And so what I want to do is I want people to realize that we don't worship God because he protects us from all pain, that he keeps us from depression, that he keeps us from divorces, that keeps us from death. We worship him because we have recognized in those positions how much power God actually has. That I could be depressed and struggling with suicide, and God made me a minister. Or I could go through a divorce, and God used me to help strengthen other relationships. Or I could be a care pastor that had issues with people caring for me. And so God's gonna make me go through something and make me accept the love and support that I really don't want to have to receive. Like I have recognized now that the real power of God shows up in the midst of our pain. And so if we can teach the world, non-believers and believers alike, that this is your opportunity, that your pain isn't an obstacle, that your pain is actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity for you to give more. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to love better. Like what I have realized in my own life is that pain really is promotion. Like seriously, like it. Again, this is why I feel like God is pushing me to do this. Like, it's easy to preach a text that's ancient. Brennan, you can attest to this. Like we get up there with this Bible that I believe is real, but how much more real can we make the word? Because remember, it tells us that we live in testimony, that we are living epistles, right? So we are our own little books. There's a book of Shalonda, there's a book of Danny, there's a book of Brennan. You know, Brennan, you just wrote a book called Fresh Manna. Well, does that mean that we can actually get, some strength and revelation about who God is from our own stories? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I want people to recognize and realize the fresh manna that is in each of our lives as we learn how to deal with God in the midst of our pains and sufferings.
Right. That's good. Last year I felt like I was in this, like, this sunken place, I'm going back to the book of Get Out. And I was just like, Lord, what's going on? And he came to me, he was like, and it was about for a few weeks, he was like, I need you to go back to that point where you truly found me. And that's the story I need you to tell people. Don't tell them about, don't just gloss over your story. Just like how you would tell people, oh, my parents died. Oh, what did they die from? Oh, cancer. Mm-hmm. Like, no, go back to that point where you actually found me and tell them that story. Because if that story brought you out, if that story saved you and freed you, that same story is going to free somebody else. So when I did that, everything just like went up 100%, from my personal business to my like companies to just my relationships with everyone. Like I had good relationships before, but when I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to tell the full story. I'm going to tell everything because people need to know. They need to know that, this is exactly what I went through. And this is where I am now. And I am still going through a little bit of something because I realized that, we need the Bible and we need therapy. If you've experienced, depression, it doesn't just stop with, praying at the altar. And so that's why I tell people, you can't just stop, you're supposed to work out your own salvation. You're supposed to work out your issues too. You need God with you. And one of the scriptures that really not scriptures, but like the story with Lazarus and Martha and Mary, and God kept asking, I believe it was Mary. He kept asking her. She kept saying, you know, if you would have been here, my brother would have never died. And she was like so in her feelings. He kept asking her, but do you believe? Yeah, I know you're the son of the Christ, but do you believe it? So if you believe that, then you need to believe that your situation that you feel like is so horrible, you need to believe that when I show up, everything's going to get better. You know, so that really just really hits home with me. You know, go back to your story. Go back to that point where you found me and tell them that story. Don't gloss over anything because all of it matters.
Oh, that's good right there.
And Danny, what I love about the story Danny shared is what I think is going to be so powerful about this film. Danny just said Jesus went to where they were. He went to bed. Now he didn't get there when Lazarus died, but he got there. He went to where they were. There's some people who are hurting who will never come to a church service. But a film, they can be ministered to. And that film is going to reach, I think, kinds of people that Chosen has been interested in reaching conception. The folk that generally don't come to church, or the folk who aren't embraced by a traditional church, the people who don't know religious clothes. These people need they ain't addressed like everybody else. And this film will have the ability to go into the homes, the living rooms, the bedroom, people who we would never connect with otherwise. And so it broadens the reach of Chosen's ministry. And that's what I'm excited about. That's going to the highways and byways. That's finding folk in the dark and gloomy places of life. And those are the very ones that Jesus said he came to seek and to save. And so I'm very excited about the fact that this movie, when those kind of hurting people in pain.
Right. And can I say something? I don't know if you wants me to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. No, it's not that bad. But I was there when he was doing part of that trailer, and even when I was sitting there listening to him, I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought I've heard his entire story, but it's just like he just really went into depth. Like he didn't gloss over anything, and so I was sitting there being impacted and inspired. So I can only imagine when somebody, like, you read the book, but then when you see the movie, the movie can put so much more in it that a book can't hold. And so that's why, like what you just said, Brandon, like this movie is really going to impact so many people because they get the visual, they get the inspiration, they get like that living epistle right in front of them on their screen.
Did y'all see in the trailer where they where the feds, where they were following me and my pants were hanging?
Yeah. I was like, you didn't even try to cover that up. I appreciate you keeping it all the way.
All the way real.
All the way real.
And then he was actually arrested.
He'll bring you out the valley, Brennan. Like, but seriously, I think I appreciate y'all saying that. I think that's what people need to see, though. Like, is it embarrassing? Yes. Is it something that you wish you would have known better? Yeah. But I think that sometimes, like you said, Danny, that we get to the point to where we just start to glaze over. And yeah, people know that we say, God changed me and all these things, but it's a whole nother thing for people to actually see where you were with their own eyes and then see where you are now with their own eyes. And for you to be able to say that was God, because where you were is where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we've got to show them where we were. And hopefully, by showing them where we were, we'll gain trust, we'll gain credibility, and we will let them know more than any of those things that the power of God is real. Like you can't tell me that God isn't real. And I'm a convicted felon, baby daddy, double AIDS orphan. So I want you to understand that no matter how many mistakes you've made, that you serve that kind of God that will take all that mess and still use it miraculously. And so I mean I just hope that people, embrace it. I want to say this, and I want your opinions on this. Everybody's not happy. We know when we step out our comfort zone and we step out in faith that um, everybody's not going to get it, right? You always have those people that don't see the vision. And I asked Chosen for support. Obviously, today's Giving Tuesday, and I thought it would be wise to let people know what it is that we were doing. And I told Chosen in the midst of a pandemic that I wanted us to produce a film. And some folk didn't understand that. But but what I feel like Chosen is doing is, or God is doing through Chosen, is I feel like he is using Chosen as a beacon of hope and inspiration in our city. Let me tell you what I mean. I'm going to preach on this. Me and Brendan were talking about this earlier. In Genesis, where there was a famine going on in the land, and Isaac was about to move. Everybody was moving to Gerar, and God told Isaac, "Don't you move." Meaning, there's a famine in the land, but I don't want you doing what everyone else is doing. I'm going to use you for an example. And when he listened to God, God flourished him in the midst of a famine and made him an example of who God was to everybody who he was surrounded by. I feel like that's what God is doing with Chosen. Y'all noticed, like, year over year, Chosen has not lost any. Matter of fact, we have more people now than we did last year at this same time. That's not most churches' story. Giving. We had one of our best months of giving in 3 years last month. Think about that for a moment. So I'm looking at what God is doing. Not just that, not just money, not just attendance, y'all. We've had 2 of our largest membership classes the last 2 months. So I'm looking at all of this and I'm like, God, what are you doing? I feel like he's telling us, y'all don't do what you see everybody else do. Y'all don't go to Gerar. You show my people that if you are obedient, you can flourish during a famine.
Right.
That if you listen to me, I will use you as a testimony to show what kind of God I am. And so I know this seems crazy, but I just feel like it's God.
I don't think it's crazy to anybody who's been in or around or is part of Chosen. particularly in the last 8 months since the pandemic. I mean, we've been active, we've been in the community more than ever. We were calling people before we started to see how people were doing. I mean, from day one, we've never done what the traditional church does. I mean, we're non-traditional. So I wouldn't expect anything different, you know. We're different, so we do things differently, and I think that's the way God created us as individuals, but as a church, that's who we are. That's who you are as a leader.
Wow, that's good. Brennan, share that text with me, because that lines up with what Shalonda was just saying. That text you sent me, man, that was so powerful, because I'm not gonna lie, like it when the people you expect to be excited aren't, it can make you second guess what you're doing, and you always have to go back to the vision and what you know God has called you to. And Brennan sent a text that just really summed up, you know. Brennan, you mind sharing that with? Could you pull that up?
What I'll do is, was it from that text message I sent you?
Yeah, I think it was. Let me see.
Well, while you're looking it up, I do want to say, I do want to say this. I think asking what you asked does have a ring of craziness to it. I'm just being honest. I think it does.
Right.
And when I look at the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, every person's faith accomplished looked crazy, but because they did it in the strength and by the authority of God, it was done. It was crazy that the 3 Hebrew boys wouldn't bow down when the music started playing. But they said, our God is able and will deliver us. And he did. It seemed crazy for the children of Israel to leave Egypt. And before the Red Sea, some of them go back. Did you bring us out here to die, Moses? Egypt. And Moses said, well, stand still and behold the salvation of God. And he stretched forth his rod and the waters parted. All I'm trying to say is, whenever you follow God's plan, it will seem crazy to some people, but they are really acts of faith. And Chosen has been a community of faith. Everything Chosen has done to this point, I believe, has been a move of faith, and God has blessed that move. The things we've done are unusual in ministry, but it's been those unusual occurrences attracted people who typically aren't attracted to the things of God. And those people are connecting with God. Lives are changed, relationships are enhanced. And so, yeah, there's a ring of craziness. But we serve a God who specializes in using crazy things to accomplish his purpose. And it's on the back end of those things that we say, man, that was God. Well, we're saying it on the front end, and that's what faith is all about. Did you find that text?
Wow. Yeah. It was the second part where you said the Pharisees could not see the Messiah, even though he was right in front of them. They crucified him as a result. Man, like if you don't have faith, you won't be able to see clearly. Mm-hmm. Like you hit the nail on the head. Like if you are trying to see logic, or if you want things to make sense, you in the wrong faith. Like you got the wrong religion. Like nothing about following Christ. make sense. I mean, God becoming a man doesn't make sense. You know, like,
Yeah. Noah building an ark in a drought didn't make a lot of sense either. But
that never rains, Shalonda.
yeah, but
I mean, I wonder if that made sense. Like, no, like, I know they were calling him certified crazy.
You know it. But who wanted to be on that ark when the water started rising?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, Shalonda, girl, I see you still waking up early, getting in that word because you've been preaching lately. That's good. That's good right there. But now, seriously, y'all, I appreciate all you do for Chosen. I appreciate your out of the box thinking. I am excited about this journey. We want to invite you all. There's still 3 hours left on Giving Tuesday to be a part of this mission. I believe we are going to reach the lost with a message that will bring them into the faith. I believe we're going to bring hope to the hurting, that no matter what level of pain they're going through, God has a purpose for their life. I believe that this is going to open up the door for relationships that will be beneficial to Chosen in perpetuity. I really feel like what we're doing is of God. And again, I thank you all for your support, your out of the box thinking, your sacrifice, and everything it is that you do to help us execute an excellent. I mean, y'all are the best, and I wouldn't trade you for the world. Let's be in prayer as we continue to try to shoot for this goal. We're in the middle of some good conversations. I think. I see that. Brennan, where's? Oh, Brian. Yes. Brian, thank you for sharing your story earlier. God has done so much in your life, my brother. Thank you for sharing the miracles that you've experienced and how, Chosen and Quest have helped you turn your life around, brother. You are the person that we want to help reach with this story. It's so many people that have gone through so much pain, and they're just waiting for a little bit of inspiration, look to get them through what it is that they're going through. So thank you for sharing that, Brian. Brendan, thank you for pointing that out to me. Jamie, Miss Vanell, I'm sorry, I had come off of the chat page for a second. J Dub, I see you, bro. Will you all be in prayer for us? If there's anyone that you all think we need to talk with, if anybody wants to sit down and learn more about the purposes behind what it is that we are doing, as a church, we are more than willing to sit down and answer questions and give you more insight. Please be in prayer with us. We're super excited. Y'all remember what Jesus said before he left? He said, "Greater works you shall do." Mm-hmm. Like that's a bold statement from Christ. Like how can we do greater works? Obviously, we know that Jesus Christ is the greatest. He doesn't mean we're greater than he is. But what I think he was saying is that we would have the opportunity to get his gospel out to more people than he did in his 3 years of his ministry, where he had to walk everywhere. We've got the ability to reach millions through some contemporary constructs. And so we want to leverage that, and we want to do it for the kingdom. This is a complete philanthropic endeavor. This money is not going to Unique Mackey. This money is going to a 501c3 where we are going to do the most good that we can with it. And so be in prayer with us as we try to move forward. So any last words, anything you all want to share before we close out?
Just one quote that I seen recently, and it ties in with Romans 8:38. The quote was from Saint Teresa of Avila, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that right. And it says, God withholds himself from no one who perseveres.
Mm.
And then the scripture that I kind of tie it to is Romans 8:38, in the latter part where it says, let's see. Oh, there it is. Neither our fears for today nor our worries about tomorrow, not even the powers of hell can separate us from the love of God. So I wanted to just leave y'all with that because, whether you're going through pain, whether you're going through tragedy, whatever you're going through, as long as you have literally like the audacity to persevere, then you're going to make it. Like whatever God has for you, he's not going to withhold himself from you, his love from you, his grace, his mercy from you, as long as you have the audacity to keep going. So that's what I want to leave with y'all.
Oh, that's strong right there, Danny. That's good preaching right there. Say that again. The audacity.
The audacity to persevere.
The audacity. The audacity to persevere. A righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up. Like, y'all, all we gotta do is keep going.
Right.
Like, listen, I don't know who this is for, but all you gotta do is keep going. We have all made mistakes. We have all dealt with pain. We have all dropped the ball. We have all done and said and gone places that we shouldn't have. Nobody here is perfect, but can you persevere? The audacity to persevere. That's a great Brennan. Don't you let me preach that first, bro. I know.
Wait a minute.
That's a beautiful
right
there. Yeah, I know how Brennan works. I got to get dibs on that before Master B get his hands on that. That's good.
I guess I will schedule. What I like to add is,
oh, go ahead, Brennan.
We'll let the woman get the last word, Shalonda. We'll let you get the last.
I'll go after you.
That's the way it should be.
Go ahead, Brennan.
Okay. What I was going to share is not necessarily for our listeners tonight, but it's for each of us, and that is this: what we're saying on this live stream tonight is appropriate for us to embrace. We're going to have some pain pushing this project forward, so expect it. Don't expect everybody to be on board. Don't expect everybody to be excited. Don't expect everybody to cheer us on. Recognize that there'll be some pain in this process. But if we practice the very thing we're sharing, God is going to make this the most powerful thing we've done. And I want to encourage us to just move forward in confidence and faith and watch God work.
Amen.
That's yeah.
I don't even want to go after that, but I do want to say this. And this is something that I thought about when I think back to that surveillance of you in those baggy pants, and you holding a gun, and yours is public. People don't know necessarily the things that we've gone through, but Brian mentioned this also in the notes. Like one thing that I was going through, in the pain was like, there's this shame. So there's this shame of like going through something. And I think the fact that we show that we're human, that we go through things, that we've made mistakes, that we've done some things that don't make any sense. But we keep pushing past that and we're willing to share that story. I think that's what's really gonna help people. Because in a traditional church, we don't talk about those things.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't talk about bad decisions or things that we've done wrong. And I think us being willing to do that and you leading that and us sharing this story is going to help people understand that, that the best is ahead of them.
Wow. No, you exactly right, Shalonda. I just think that we got to remind people about the power of God.
Mm-hmm.
And because so often in the church we wanna make it look like we were born saved, people miss the power. Like it's okay to have messed up. We don't have to be perfect, but are we willing to receive the power that God has is the question. And I hope that the testimony that Chosen has, the work that we're doing will make people more willing to be real and share their story. I hope that we're an inspiration to others to brag on their brokenness and be willing to be used by God. And if we can inspire that in people, that that's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? So thanks everybody. Please feel free to let us know what you think about what we're doing. The trailer is out there. It's on a lot of people's pages. It's on Chosen's page. It's on my page. Let us know what you think. Please be in prayer with us as we push forward to try to accomplish what God has laid before us. And so again, thank you to my leadership team. Y'all don't know how much your encouragement means. Sometimes the voices we shouldn't be listening to are the loudest, and y'all are just a reminder to me that I just need to keep pushing forward in what God has called me to. So thank y'all for being the encouragement that I need. I tell y'all all the time, if I wasn't a pastor of Chosen, I would still be a part of it because of how much you all minister to me. So thank you for letting God use you in my life. And it's because of you all, I truly believe Chosen is going to be a household name. And so let's get it, y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all share this. If it was a blessing to you, be a blessing to somebody else. And
Share.
we'll holler at you on Saturday. No, we'll holler at you tomorrow on that Wednesday word. Brenda, you got that Wednesday word for him, don't you? Y'all check my boy out on that Wednesday word he drops. Peace.